All right, let's talk about Westeros. But we're going way back. Before the Game of Thrones, before the Starks and Lannisters were at each other's throats, we're going to dive into the story of two legends. A giant of a hedge knight and a small, bald kid who would, believe it or not, change everything. This is the story of Dunk and Egg. So here's the big question, right? How does some random wandering knight become one of the most famous people in Westerosi history? It's an awesome story, and it really comes down to a bit of luck, a whole lot of honor, and a friendship that honestly shaped the future of an entire kingdom. So let's set the scene. We're in the year 209 AC. Westeros is, well, it's trying to catch its breath. The Blackfire Rebellion just happened, this huge civil war, and things are still pretty shaky. The Targaryens are on the throne, sure, but that peace, it feels like it could shatter at any moment. And right into this tense world, our hero walks onto the stage. And this is where we meet Dunk. He's just buried the old knight he squired for, a guy named Ser Arlland of Pennytree. So now he's on his own. All he has is a couple of horses and some pretty beat-up armor. And he makes a decision. He's going to become a hedge knight. A freelancer, wandering from town to town, just trying to make a name for himself. Dunk's life as a solo act, though, it lasts for about 5 minutes. Because at an inn, he runs into this kid. He's got a shaved head, he's super persistent, and he calls himself Egg. And this boy is absolutely convinced he needs to be Dunk's squire. Dunk's not so sure, but Egg, he sees something special in this big, clumsy hedge knight. Egg is relentless, He even pulls this sob story about his mom. And eventually, it works. Dunk just can't shake him, so he agrees to take him on, just for a little while, until they get to this big tournament at Ashford Meadow. But wait, to even get into the tournament, you can't just be Dunk. You need a proper knightly name. So what does he pick? He goes with something simple, something honest. He's tall. So he becomes Sir Duncan the Tall. And yeah, that name is definitely going to stick. Okay, so they're a team now, and their partnership gets tested, immediately. They get to the Ashford Tournament, and Dunk's simple, good-hearted nature ends up kicking off a massive, full-on royal crisis. Seriously. This is where it all goes sideways. Dunk sees a Prince, Aeron Targaryen, being cruel to a puppeteer, and he steps in. He does the right thing. But the right thing involves hitting a prince. Next thing you know, he's on trial and probably going to be executed. It looks hopeless until his little squire Egg reveals who he really is. Turns out he's not just some kid, he's Prince Aegon Targaryen. So now, Aerion demands a trial of 7, and if you don't know, this isn't just a regular trial. It's basically a mini battle. 7 knights against 7 knights. It's so rare, most people have never even seen one. Dunk now has to find 6 other guys willing to die for him, and just look at the other team. Prince Aerion, the guy he hit, is on it. Even Egg's own father, Prince Maekar, is fighting against him. But, and this is a huge but, the heir to the Iron Throne, the widely respected Prince Baelor Breakspear, decides to fight on Dunk's side. And the result? It's just classic Westeros, right? It's a win, but it feels like a loss. Dunk is found innocent, his life is saved, but the cost is insane. Prince Baelor, the best man there, the future of the kingdom, is killed in the fight, accidentally struck down by his own brother, Maekar. This one death is going to have massive ripple effects for the entire royal family. So after all that chaos, Egg's father, Prince Maekar, is actually impressed with Dunk. He offers him a nice, comfortable job at court. But Dunk, he turns it down. He wants to stay a hedge knight, free to roam. And Maekar, respecting this, basically says, okay, but you're taking my son with you. He wants Egg to learn how to be a good man, not just a pampered prince. And he thinks Dunk is the guy to teach him. And this is where their real journey starts. For years, the two of them just travel, not as a prince and his protector, but as a simple hedge knight and a squire. They get into all sorts of trouble, working for stubborn lords, settling petty disputes over rivers, facing down droughts. And through it all, Egg is learning what life is like for real people. And Dunk's simple, honest-to-a-fault honor, it starts to become the stuff of legend. Dunk just has this knack for being in the wrong place at the exactly right time. They end up at this wedding tournament, and it turns out the whole thing is a cover for another Blackfire plot to take the throne. And who figures it out? Egg, with his sharp eyes, and Dunk, with his courage. They blow the whole thing wide open and stop a rebellion before it even starts. Dunk is, without even trying, becoming a true champion for the Targaryens. So all of these seemingly small adventures, all these little moments on the road, they're all leading somewhere completely unexpected. They're leading to one of the most unlikely rises to power in the history of Westeros. See, Aeg was never, ever supposed to be king. But fate, man, fate had other plans. Okay, so just look at what happens to the Targaryen line of succession. It gets completely wrecked. First, this horrible plague, the Great Spring Sickness, kills the king and his direct heirs. Gone. Then the next king in line, Aerys I, dies without any kids. Then Aeg's own father, King Maekar, gets killed in a battle. Just like that, the throne is empty. It's a total crisis. To keep the kingdom from tearing itself apart in another civil war, all the great lords get together for what's called a Great Council. They have to pick the next king. And the obvious choice, the person everyone looks to, is Aeg's older brother, Aemon. He's smart, he's respected, but he's already a maester at the Citadel. And Aemon says no, just flat out refuses. He's sworn vows as a maester, and he's not going to break them. He believes duty comes before everything, and his duty lies with the chain, not the crown. So he removes himself from the running entirely and heads north to the Wall. And yep, this is the very same wise old Maester Aemon that we meet in the main story. So, with Aemon out of the picture, the council has to look further down the line. They pass over a few other people, and then the crown lands on someone nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. The fifth son of a fourth son. It falls to Aeg. Can you believe it? The little bald-headed kid from the inn is now King Aegon the Fifth Targaryen, king of the Andals and the First Men, the whole shebang. And what's one of the very first things he does as king? He honors the man who raised him, the man who taught him what it means to be good. He names Sir Duncan the Tall to his king's guard, and eventually, Dunk will become the Lord Commander. Okay, so let's fast forward a bunch of years. King Aegon V is an old man now, and he's frustrated. He's spent his entire reign trying to make life better for the common people, but the big, powerful lords fight him at every turn. He decides he needs more power, the kind of power his ancestors had, the kind of power that comes from dragons. So, in the year 259 AC, he gathers his whole family at their summer palace, a place called Summerhall. He has this grand, dangerous idea. He's going to try and hatch dragon eggs. He thinks if he can just bring dragons back into the world, he'll finally have the muscle to push through all the reforms he's been fighting for. But it all goes horribly, horribly wrong. The attempt to hatch the eggs with fire, well, it creates a massive inferno that no one can control. The entire palace goes up in flames. The king, his oldest son, and so many others are killed. And the official story is that the Lord Commander of the King's Guard, Sir Duncan the Tall, died right there with them, defending his king and his friend to the very end. A reign that started with a chance meeting ends in ash and fire. Or did it? Here's where we get a crazy little twist. The young actor who's playing Aeg in the new TV show, he recently let something slip. He said that George R.R. Martin himself told him something. He said, "We know Dunk survives." That somehow he made it out of that fire alive. And that changes everything, doesn't it? It completely reframes the end of this story. If Dunk survived the fire that killed the king he loved, his best friend, then what did he do next? What happens to a member of the King's Guard when his king is gone? What does a hero do after losing everything? Suddenly, the end of the story might just be the beginning of a whole new mystery. It looks like the tale of Sir Duncan the Tall might not be over.